Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be talking today. It's a continuation of our Wouldn't It Be Funny If conversation about digital citizenship. And this is part two, and we've invited our police officers to join us from Chester, our Chester police officers. We are so grateful for you. We have today with us Patrolman, School Resource Officer Matt Bone. You can say hi.
Hello, everybody.
And we also have Lieutenant Totems with us as well.
How are you?
So thank you so much. First of all, thank you for everything that you're doing for us right now during the this pandemic, the coronavirus. Thank you for joining us. We just are so grateful to have you leading our community and protecting our community at this time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you saying that.
Yeah. So usually what I do in my classroom is I invite two police officers to come in and talk about digital citizenship with our students, so that because our police officers are the ones who have to usually come along and clean up some of the messes when we make mistakes that are beyond just a little mistake. It's a big mistake. And so I like to invite them in to kind of give us a picture of what we need to be warned against, so that it won't get to them. They don't want to see, they want to see you on the street and say hi. They don't want to see you in, handcuffs or, something else. Their job is a rough one, and we salute them for doing it. I'm grateful that you can be here to help us to not get to a situation where we don't want to be in. Yeah. So, okay. So, today we already talked about the executive functions of the brain and kind of where we're at in our teenage years. We're not quite fully developed yet as far as our executive functioning skills. So Mrs. Belfiore is here also with us, and she will throw her 2 cents in when we need her to. Or thank you for being here too. And so we're going to be talking about our brains, coupled with now this technology that we have. And now we have an even stronger reason for why we need to have this conversation, because we're all online. We're all on our devices. We're all on our phones, and that's how we connect with each other. And so we actually now have like a bigger audience that we're dealing with. So if you're thinking in terms of, well, wouldn't it be funny if I did this one thing? Well, sometimes yes, because we do need a laugh, and that's okay. But sometimes it goes a little too far. And so today we're going to be talking about what happens when things go a little too far. And so I just want to show you a couple quick examples of this, and then we're going to have our officers share. So couple quick examples of this is a student who was at a rally, and he actually went a little too far, and he started yelling anti-gay slurs and things like that at a rally, and he lost his wrestling scholarship because of that. And here's another situation where these are young adults, and they thought it would be funny to have take this picture, this graduation picture of themselves doing the Heil Hitler symbol, and they all lost their jobs. The person who Bird, who was the person who was their main officer, who was their teacher, she lost her job. She thought it was fine and funny to do this picture, and it was not funny. So sometimes we do things in the name of, wouldn't it be funny if we did this? But people lose their jobs, lose their scholarships, lose their life ruined. And unfortunately, that happens sometimes. And so I just wanted to ask our officers to chime in here and just give us some advice for things that we need to be thinking about now that we're engrossed in this online media world.
Well, I think one of the things that we have to think about, especially when we talk about kids in the classroom setting, and even now that they're home, probably more so, is passwords and sharing passwords, because passwords are set up to protect vital information that you may not want someone to have access to. And we all know from doing some of these classes with yourself and Ms. Belfiore in the school setting that when you bring this topic up of sharing passwords, the kids kind of giggle a little bit and they look at each other and they laugh. And we all know that they're probably sharing these things with their friends, and it's probably all fine and good most of the time, but there are instances where a child gets upset at another, and then the next thing you know, these passwords can open up their accounts. They can then access them. They can post things that probably shouldn't be posted, or that they wouldn't post, and things can go bad pretty fast.
I would also say, to touch upon what you had said, Ms. Garrison, about the larger audience now, because everybody's home and they're using the internet and social media to correspond with each other. Bad guys, if you want to call them bad guys, or trolls that are on the internet, have a bigger audience and a bigger pool to reach from or to grab from. So always make sure that who you think you're talking to is the right person. The websites that you're going on are reputable, things like that, because the bad guys know that everybody is using the internet and social media to correspond right now, and they're going to try to take advantage any way they can. So they know that there are more people to pick from.
Right.
So even like phishing scams, things in your email, like making sure that when you open an email, it's from someone that you really do know.
Yeah,
agreed.
Because I think I've even heard I think it was Officer DeCunza had mentioned that one time. This was a couple of years ago, that there was a big problem with phishing and people giving money to places that they thought they were putting money in their account or something, some strange thing that was happening.
There was many scams, one of which was there was one where they would call the homeowner. They would target the elderly generally, and they would try to make up a story that their granddaughter or grandson is in jail or needs help, and they need them to send money right away to help them out. And if not, they could go to jail themselves. And there was all sorts of different scenarios that they would use to try to get people that are not, really paying attention to what's going on, maybe as much as they should, to just send money. Oh my God, so and so is in trouble. I have to help them out.
Right.
Wow.
Worst phishing scams that we've dealt with.
Wow. So there have been some like that you guys have even had to deal with. So that's and for high schoolers, middle schoolers, teenagers, that might not be for you, but warn your parents, warn your grandparents about that, because
Absolutely.
now more than ever, it's because people are in the digital world. They may, and they have more time, so that you may click on something and not know it's a phishing scam.
Right.
So really good. So then probably a good idea for students, if you have given out your password to somebody, it may be a really good idea to change your password. On your social media accounts is what I mean. So that
we do that here quite a bit. I know as law enforcement, we have to change we use passwords for everything. And we have reminders set up that we change them in some cases every 30 days.
30 days, 45 days.
So it might be a good idea to start that practice now, either, the students and their parents, rotate your passwords around, keep a list of them and what is active and what is not. Just keep changing them up to keep yourself safe.
Okay, that's good. So I know that I've heard you guys speak before about if somebody does, let's say somebody does post inappropriate pictures, what would be the ramification of that?
I would say the biggest ramification is the age of the person. We're talking about students here, so the assumption is that the student is under 18. So if there was a charge of harassment by posting, like for example, if this were to happen, if two people were dating and somebody had and they had each other's passwords and they got into some sort of argument or a fight or they broke up, and one person posted inappropriate pictures of the other one, it could be harassment, it could be sharing pornography online, it could be a lot of other things. But now, taking into consideration the age, if the person's under 18, that's enhanced penalties.
Mm-hmm.
And what a lot of people don't realize is, in some cases, just having these pictures is actually against the law. So it's really important that to get the message out that even if you're not the person sending them, if you receive them, to either tell an adult or to erase them and and basically break the chain there.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if, to your point, wouldn't it be funny if, and then I send it to 10 friends, I now took part in this and I could be actually charged with that. So there's real consequences legally to doing things like this.
And just to touch on that, all the students, a lot of them, once they get to middle school, they start having boyfriends, girlfriends, and they think it's, oh, it's just us. We'll just take pictures of ourselves, and it's just for me. But when things do go south sometimes, and feelings are hurt, that's when, wouldn't it be funny if, or wouldn't it be a bad idea if?
Yeah.
Not a good idea. But they don't think, and they post a picture. They log in using the passwords that we just talked about to someone else's account, and you can post pictures and do whatever you want. And the person whose account it is, they don't even know that this is going on, and that is bad. And then that starts the ball rolling.
I think the other thing people need to understand too is that, not to dive into digital fingerprints and IP addresses and things like that, but all the stuff is traceable now. It isn't.
Good point.
It isn't taking a picture, folding it into a paper airplane, and sending it into the air,
Yeah.
and wherever it lands, it lands. We can actually trace the route that it came from. We can trace back to the source where it came from, and that's where, when law enforcement gets involved, people can really get into a lot of trouble, and you can get your parents in trouble. You're using your tablet, your iPad, your phone, your laptop, your home computer. If you're sending stuff like that and it's in the name of your parents, or it's the IP address is registered to them, you've now drawn them into it. And the last thing any parent ever wants to do is get charged for something because people didn't get along, or they had a fight, or they said, wouldn't it be funny if?
So good stuff. And I know that's why we're, we just want to give you fair warning. And I'm sure, guys, it's not, I've seen you guys in the hallways with your friends, and I know none of you wish ill will, or, want to be getting in trouble. No one says, oh, well, yeah, I want to have charges against me someday. Like, nobody says that. No, that's never the intention. And it may not be you. It may be a friend. It may be like a brother or sister that you see kind of doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Just give them a heads up. Because these, you don't want to be in a situation where you've gone too far, really. And one more thing, the last thing I want to add here is just this idea, we talking about sharing pictures and things like that. We also are now in a situation where people are doing a lot more webcasting, live. You're in live classes with your teachers. And we just want to give you some advice about your background and what you're wearing. Make sure what you're wearing is appropriate. Make sure your background is appropriate. Officers, do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, due to the nature of what we do, we always try to preserve people's personal information. So even doing this broadcast with you today, Mrs. Garrison, the first thing that Matt and I did was try to find a very neutral spot with nothing written on the boards behind us. A lot of times, if we're working on cases or we have a project, we may have names and phone numbers and date of births and things up on the board as reminders or to help us do our planning. The last thing we ever want to do is put somebody's information out there. So, I mean, we do it as a matter of course, just doing our job, but I think it's a great practice for anyone who's doing that. I mean, think about what's behind you and consider if somebody may do a screenshot or a still shot of the screen and look at whether you have things written on your refrigerator, or you have things in your home, or you have something that might be sensitive in the background.
Yeah.
So it's just look around you before you start broadcasting.
Yeah, all those parents that used to tell you to clean your rooms. This is a exact perfect point. This is exactly why you never know who's going to see your room.
That's right. That's right. Because you're inviting people into your home. So
That's right. That's right. Awesome. That is perfect. And just one other little plug before we go here. Don't believe everything that you see or hear or that's on YouTube, because there's lots of people out there that are, taking advantage of the fear right now. And so they may either be, number one, trying to really scare you, or number two, they may be trying to give you information that is not true and in either a scary way or whatever. So just if something, if something seems a little outlandish, ask somebody else, Google it, use Snopes to Google if something's true or not. Of course, you can always reach out to me or to our officers or to Mrs. Belfiore, because we're here for you. We want to help you, guide you through this this time online, and we want to help you succeed. So we wish we could do it in face to face, but unfortunately we can't at this time, but we look forward to seeing you soon.
in the future, sure. We always say when you hear something or someone tells you something, you read something, trust but verify. So I would definitely say that's something that people should do when they read things, because like you said, there's going to be people or groups or whatever that are going to try to build up hype or cause panic.
And stop and think before you, if you're on Facebook or some of the social medias, stop or think before you post something or reply to something, and try to think about how that's going to be perceived before you do it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's good. Good advice.
The last thing, Mrs. Garrison, also, because we are, in the digital age and everyone is, distancing themselves, things like that. We, as just speaking from the police department, we are obviously still open to phone calls if you have questions or information about stuff like that. Even though we may not be in the schools, if students or parents have questions, they can always call us, and we can, offer some guidance over the phone. We don't need to do it face to face.
So good to know. Thank you. Well, thank you again so much for all that you do and for joining us and doing this recording with us today. It really means a lot.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yes. Mrs. Belfiore, are you there?
She might have left.
I think she may have dropped out of the conversation.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll check in with her another time, but thank you again so much. And we'll see you soon.
Okay. Take care, everybody.
All right. Take care. Thank you.